Hi, this is Ben Lorica from Gradient Flow. I wanted to highlight a new model that I think AI teams should be taking a look at. But before I start, if you haven't yet, please hit the subscribe button and thank you for your support in advance. Anyway, the model is DeepSeek version 3. So DeepSeek is an AI company based in Hangzhou, China. And as you can see, this is a company that has released three models in the last 13 months. So they are really committed to releasing models at a regular cadence. So if you take a look at the chatbot arena, which in my mind is the best leaderboard out there for ranking general purpose large language models, DeepSeek is now in the top 10. And this top 10 includes models from Google. Specifically, I really like the latest Gemini 2.0 Flash, as well as OpenAI o1. I have to admit, I hadn't really thought of DeepSeek until now. I did try version 1 and 2, they were okay. But with version 3, I've really been impressed. So I've added it to the mix of models that I use on a daily basis. So at this point, I have a family of five models, right? So three proprietary OpenAI, Google Gemini, and Anthropic Claude, as well as two families of open weights models, obviously Llama and now DeepSeek. And so you might ask, how can you use so many models? Isn't that too complicated? Actually, if you take a look at Unify.ai, they have a universal API. So basically, with a single, it's like a single sign on almost for LLM providers, where you can basically just open an account, get an API key from Unify, and then boom, you're ready to go. You can use all of these models from different providers without changing much in your code. Basically, just the model provider, and model itself. Once I started using version 3 of DeepSeek, I wanted to learn more about the company. So I did some research. I consulted articles about them in both the English and Chinese language media, and a few things popped out. One, the company is similar to the foundation model companies we find out here in the San Francisco Bay Area, in that their long term goal is AGI, Artificial General Intelligence. One thing that seems to set them apart is they are committed to getting there in a resource efficient and cost efficient way. And they are trying to get there with a lean team. But the important thing for us, developers and AI teams, is they have some commitment, or a strong commitment, I would say, to some notion of openness. As part of the release of version 3, and I suspect this is the case as well for version 1 and 2, DeepSeek releases the weights, so it's an open weights model, as well as training recipes, but not the full training or serving code. And the model itself is licensed under the MIT license, but there are some restrictions as far as how you can actually use it. So here, the interesting thing that I want to highlight here, for especially for teams building commercial applications, is you cannot use it to support military applications. So one impressive thing about DeepSeek is that they were able to get to this level of performance of their model. Remember, this is a model that's in the top 10 now, according to the chatbot arena, uh, in a very cost-effective way, right? So according to what they are saying, they were able to train this model for a cost of around $5 to $6 million, which is amazing, right? Because if you look at the other foundation model providers in that top 10 ranking, many of them are now talking about training models in the $1 billion range, right? So moving forward. So if this is in fact the case, this is a huge competitive advantage. Another thing worth highlighting is DeepSeek has really put a lot of thought into how much will these models cost to deploy and use in production. So, what are the future prospects for this company, DeepSeek? I would say it's promising given the fact that the company has released three models in a span of 13 months, and they remain very committed to releasing uh, better and better models at a regular cadence. And remember, they were able to release this last model, at least they claim, at a cost of less than $10 million. They were able to train this model, right? And all that innovation took place in an era where the competition between the US and China in AI is intensifying. Um, so DeepSeek did all of this in an atmosphere of the Biden administration's export controls focus on semiconductors. In fact, today, as I'm recording this, the Biden administration published further refinements to their AI export controls. And for the first time, they mentioned model weights. But based on my quick read, it doesn't seem to impact the current situation because it restricts the transfer of model weights for advanced close weight models. But I don't think that's taking place now anyway. And then the open weight models can still move forward as is. And if you look ahead, so what will the Trump administration do? As I mentioned before, they only have three options, right? So one is a completely open approach with no export controls for AI. I suspect that's very unlikely to happen given the fact that the US and Europe adopted that policy in the areas of solar panels and electric vehicles, and that didn't work out too well for the US and Europe. So, and I think that AI is clearly much more important than those sectors. The other option is countrywide restrictions, which is basically regardless of who you are, if you're based in China, you're subject to export controls. That seems heavy handed, although I wouldn't rule it out given the way Trump talks about China. The other approach, which is what the Biden administration is doing, is a much more targeted approach, kind of the thread the needle, which has its drawbacks, but that seems to be the more likely scenario that the Trump administration will pursue. They can more likely strengthen that even more. Now, as far as DeepSeek is concerned, like I mentioned, a lot of the innovation took place under the Biden administration's export controls. And so they truly embody this adage, necessity is the mother of invention, right? So I suspect that given that they were able to train the latest model V3 for such a low dollar amount relative to what the other teams are doing, I suspect that they will be able to innovate their way out of export controls moving forward. But we'll see what happens. But for AI teams, generally, the idea here is to design your application so you don't rely on a single model. Make sure that whatever application you have, you can easily swap in models, use multiple models. And that means that you're not tied to a single vendor or a single model, and you have much more flexibility and control. So, thank you for listening. And if you haven't yet, please subscribe to our newsletter, which you can find at gradientflow.substack.com.